Greetings for everyone. Okay, so I'm going to be straight and just start reading, but before that I have to check the quality of my voice. I will stream this reading without any background music, and yeah, I really wanna just okay, moment. I'm just checking the stream on YouTube, but for some strange reason, I will stream this reading without any background music, and yeah, I really wanna just okay, it's not bad. It always can be better. It always can be worse. Let's accept the things as they are right now. Okay, so this stream is going to be in English. Please just accept that my English is not the best, but practice makes perfect. The more we use, the better we get at speaking languages. So this is what matters at the end of the day. I could just be on my own and read without streaming it, but why not? I mean, we can enjoy it together. I mean, if it's something that we can enjoy, it's, yeah, this book can resonate with our being. I don't know that much about Ramana Maharshi. The only thing that I know is that he's very, very aware. He was a very, very aware human being. And he has a few things to say which directs us towards our being. So let's check the book. I mean, we don't have anything to lose. I don't know. I just want to fix the text so much so you can see it fully. Oh. Yeah, perfect. The letters are a little bit small, but yeah, it's gonna be good for right now. Part 1. The Self. That in which all these worlds seem to exist steadily, that of which all these words are a possession, that from which all these worlds rise, that for which all these exist, that by which all these worlds come into existence, and that which is indeed all these, that alone is the existing reality. Let us cherish that self, which is the reality in the heart. Chapter 1. The Nature of the Self. The essence of Sri Ramana's teachings is conveyed in his frequent assertions that there is a single immanent reality directly experienced by everyone, which is simultaneously the source, the substance, and the real nature of everything that exists. He gave it a number of different names each one signifying a different aspect of the same indivisible reality. The following classification includes all of his more common synonyms and explains the implications of the various terms used. The self. This is the term he used the most frequently. He defined it by saying that the real self or real I is, contrary to perceptible experience, not an experience of individuality, but a non-personal, all-inclusive awareness. It is not to be confused with the individual self, which he said was essentially non-existent, being a fabrication of the mind which obscures the true experience of the real self. He maintained that the real self is always present and always experienced, but he emphasized that one is only consciously aware of it as it really is when the self-limiting tendencies of the mind have ceased. Permanent and continuous self-awareness is known as self-realization. Sat Chit Ananda. This is a Sanskrit term which translates as being consciousness bliss. Sri Ramana taught that the self is pure being, a subjective awareness of I am, which is completely devoid of the feeling I am this or I am that. There are no subjects or objects in the self. There is only an awareness of being. Because this awareness is conscious, it is also known as consciousness. The direct experience of this consciousness is, according to Sri Ramana, a state of unbroken happiness, and so the term Ananda or bliss is also used to describe it. These three aspects, being, consciousness, and bliss, are experienced as a unitary whole and not as separate attributes of the self. They are inseparable in the same way that wetness, transparency, and liquidity are inseparable properties of water. God. Sri Ramana maintained that the universe is sustained by the power of the self. Since theists normally attribute this power to God, he often used the word God as a synonym for the self. He also used the words Brahman, the supreme being of Hinduism, and Shiva, a Hindu name for God, in the same way. Sri Ramana's God is not a personal God. He is the formless being which sustains the universe. He is not the creator of the universe. The universe is merely a manifestation of his inherent power. He is inseparable from it, but he is not affected by its appearance or its disappearance. The heart. Sri Ramana frequently used the Sanskrit word hridayam when he was talking about the self. It is usually translated as the heart, but a more literal translation would be this is the center. In using this particular term, he was not implying that there was a particular location or center for the self. He was merely indicating that the self was the source from which all appearances manifested. Jnana. The experience of the self is sometimes called jnana, or knowledge. This term should not be taken to mean that there is a person who has knowledge of the self, because in the state of self-awareness there is no localized knower, and there is nothing that is separate from the self that can be known. True knowledge, or jnana, is not an object of experience, nor is it an understanding of a state which is different and apart from the subject knower. It is a direct and a knowing awareness of the one reality in which subjects and objects have ceased to exist. One who is established in this state is known as a jnani. Turiya and Turiyatita. Hindu philosophy postulates three alternating levels of relative consciousness: waking, dream, and deep sleep. Sri Ramana stated that the self was the underlying reality which supported the appearance of the other three temporary states. I need a moment. Okay. Because of this, he's sometimes called the self-turiya avashata, or the fourth state. He also occasionally used the word turiyatita, meaning transcending the fourth, to indicate that there are not really four states, but only one real transcendental state. Other terms. Three other terms for the self are worth noting. Sri Ramana often emphasized that the self was once real and natural state of being, and for this reason he occasionally employed the terms sahaja sthiti, meaning the natural state, and swarupa, meaning real form or real nature. He also used the word silence to indicate that the self was a silent, thought-free state of undisturbed peace and total stillness. What is reality? Reality must be always real. It is not with forms and names. That which underlies these is the reality. It underlies limitations, being itself limitless. It is not bound. It underlies unrealities, itself being real. Reality is that which is. It is as it is. It transcends speech. It is beyond the expressions existence, non-existence, etc. The reality which is the mere consciousness that remains when ignorance is destroyed along with knowledge of objects alone is the self, Atma. In the Brahma Svarupa, real form of Brahman, which is abundant self-awareness, there is not the least ignorance. The reality which shines fully without misery and without a body, not only when the world is known, but also when the world is not known, is your real form, Nija Svarupa. The radiance of consciousness bliss in the form of one awareness shining equally within and without is the supreme and blissful primal reality. Its form is silence, and it is declared by jnanis to be the final and unobstructable state of true knowledge. Knowing that jnana alone is non-attachment, jnana alone is purity, jnana is the attainment of God, jnana which is devoid of forgetfulness of self alone is immortality, jnana alone is everything. What is the awareness and how can one obtain and cultivate it? You are awareness. Awareness is another name for you. Since you were awareness, there is no need to attain or cultivate it. All that you have to do is to give up being aware of other things, that is of the not self. If one gives up being aware of them, then pure awareness alone remains, and that is the self. If the self is self-aware, why am I not aware of it even now? There is no duality. Your present knowledge is due to the ego and it is only relative. Relative knowledge requires a subject and an object, whereas the awareness of the self is absolute and requires no object. Remembrance also is similarly relative, requiring an object to be remembered and a subject to remember. When there is no duality, who is to remember whom? The self is ever present. Each one wants to know the self. What kind of help does one require to know oneself? People want to see the self as something new. a moment. Okay, I'm back again. People want to see the self as something new, but it is eternal and remains the same all along. They desire to see it as a blazing light, etc. How can it be so? It is not light, not darkness. It is only as it is. It cannot be defined. The best definition as I am that I am. The Srutis, scriptures, speak of the self as being the size of one's thumb, the tip of the hair, an electric spark, vast, subtler than the subtlest, etc. They have no foundation, in fact. It is only being, but different from the real and the unreal. It is knowledge, but different from knowledge and ignorance. How can it be defined at all? It is simply being. When a man realizes the self, what will he see? There is no seeing. Seeing is only being. The state of self-realization, as we call it, is not attaining something new or reaching some goal which is far away, but simply being that which you always are and which you always have been. All that is needed is that you give up your realization of the non-true as true. All of us are regarding as real that which is not real. We have only to give up this practice on our part. Then we shall realize the self as the self. In other words, be the self. At one stage, you will laugh at yourself for trying to discover the self which is so self-evident. So what can we say to this question? That stage transcends the seer and the seen. There is no seer there to see anything. The seer who is seeing all this now ceases to exist and the self alone remains. How to know this by direct experience? If we talk of knowing the self, there must be two selves, one a knowing self, another the self which is known, and the process of knowing. The state we call realization is simply being oneself, not knowing anything or becoming anything. If one has realized, one is that which alone is and which alone has always been. One cannot describe that state. One can only be that. Of course, we loosely talk of self-realization for want of a better term. How to realize or make real that which alone is real? You sometimes say the self is silence. Why is this? For those who live in the self as the beauty of devoid of thoughts, there is nothing which should be thought of. That which should be added to is only the experience of silence, because in that supreme state nothing exists to be attained other than oneself. What is Muna? Silence. That state which transcends speech and thought is Mona. I don't know how to pronounce that. That which is Mona, let's say. How can Mona be explained in words? Sages say that the state in which the thought I, the ego, does not rise even in the least, alone is self, svarupa, which is silence. That silent self alone is God. Self alone is the jiva, an individual soul. Self alone is this ancient world. All other knowledges are only petty and trivial knowledges. The experience of silence alone is the real and perfect knowledge. Know that the many objective differences are not real but are mere superimpositions on self, which is the form of true knowledge. As the bodies and the selves animating them are everywhere actually observed to be innumerable, how can it be said that the self is only one? If the idea, I am the body, is accepted, the selves are multiple. The state in which this idea vanishes is the self, since in that state there are no other objects. It is for this reason that the self is regarded as only one. If the idea, I am the body, is accepted, oh, yeah, okay, I read that. Since the body itself does not exist in the natural outlook of the real self, but only in the extroverted outlook of the mind, which is deluded by the power of illusion to call self the space of consciousness, he, the possessor of the body, is wrong. The world does not exist without the body. The body never exists without the mind. The mind never exists without consciousness, and consciousness never exists without the reality. For the wise one who has known self by diving within himself, there is nothing other than self to be known. Why? Because since the ego, which identifies the form of a body as I, has perished, he, the wise one, is the formless existence consciousness. The jnani, one who has realized the self, knows he is the self and that nothing, neither his body nor anything else, exists but the self. To such a one, what difference could the presence or absence of the body make? It is false to speak of realization. What is there to realize? There is as it is always. We are not creating anything new or achieving something which we did not have before. The illustration given in books is this: we dig a well and create a huge pit. The space in the pit or well has not been created by us. We have just removed the earth which was filling the space there. The space was there then, is also there now. Similarly, we have simply to throw out all the age-long samskaras, innate tendencies, which are inside us. When all of them have been given up, the self will shine alone. But how to do this and attain liberation? By the way, excuse me for weird sounds. Is my stomach creates weird sounds because I'm fasting and yeah, had a very intense workout today, and I still haven't eaten yet anything. So yeah, I don't want to stop streaming because of this weird sounds. So just yeah, just to clarify this thing. But how to do this and attain liberation? Liberation is our very nature. We are that. The very fact that we wish for liberation shows that freedom from all bondage is our real nature. It is not to be freshly acquired. All that is necessary is to get rid of the false notion that we are bound. When we achieve that, there will be no desire or thought of any sort. So long as one desires liberation, so long you make it, one is in bondage. Yeah, we are in bondage if we seek liberation. We are liberation, actually. The state, I mean the thoughtless state, the emptiness and the fullness is our state. I mean emptiness and the fullness at the same time, which we cannot call, which they call God, is our real state, which is liberation itself. Liberation from the mind, liberation from the separate self, liberation from separateness, and the unity with everything. And that alone itself feels liberating, and it is liberation. It doesn't just feel liberating, it is liberation. And it is more than liberation. For one who has realized his self, it is said that he will not have the three states of wakefulness, dream, and deep sleep. Is that a fact? What makes you say that they do not have the three states? In saying I had a dream, I was in deep sleep, I am awake, you must admit that you were there in all the three states. That makes it clear that you were there all the time. If you remain as you are now, you are in the wakeful state. This becomes hidden in the dream state, and the dream state disappears when you are in deep sleep. You were there then, you are there now, and you are there all at all times. The three states come and go, but you are always there. It is like a cinema. The screen is always there, but several types of pictures appear on the screen and then disappear. Nothing sticks to the screen, it remains a screen. You were there then, you are there now, and you are there at all times. The three states come and go, but you are always there. It is like a cinema. The screen is always there, but several types of pictures appear on the screen and then disappear. Nothing sticks to the screen, it remains a screen. Similarly, you remain your own self in all the three states. If you know that, the three states will not trouble you, just as the pictures which appear on the screen do not stick to it. On the screen, you sometimes see a huge ocean with endless waves. That disappears. Another time, you see fire spreading all around. That too disappears. The screen is there on both occasions. Did the screen get wet with the water, or did it get burned by the fire? Nothing affected the screen. In the same way, the things that happen during the wakeful, dream, and sleep states do not affect you at all. You remain your own self. Does that mean that although people have all three states, wakefulness, dream, and deep sleep, these do not affect them? Yes, that is. That is it. All these states come and go. The self is not bothered, it has only one state. Does that mean that such a person will be in this world merely as a witness? That is so, for this very thing. Vidaranya, oh, these words, I love it. My brain has to work. Let's see how it.
Vidyaranya.
Vidarinya, let's say. I think it's not the right pronunciation. That is so for this very thing, Vidyaranya, in the 10th chapter of the Pancharisi gives as example the light that is kept on the stage of the theater. When a drama is being played, the light is there, which illuminates without any distinction all the actors, whether they be kings or servants or dancers, and also all the audience. That light will be there before the drama begins, during the performance, and also after the performance is over. Similarly, the light within, that is the self, gives light to the ego, the intellect, the memory, and the mind without self being subject to processes of growth and decay. Although during deep sleep and other states there is no feeling of the ego, that self remains attributeless and continues to shine of itself. Actually, the idea of the self being the witness is only in the mind. It is not the absolute truth of the self. Witnessing is relative to object witnessed. Both the witness and his object are mental creations. Let's stop for a moment and take a deep breath. It's like, it feels like meditation to read this book, by the way. How are the three states of consciousness inferior in degree of reality to the fourth, to Riya? What is the actual relation between these three states and the fourth? There is only one state, that of consciousness or awareness or existence. The three states of waking, dream, and sleep cannot be real. They simply come and go. The real will always exist. The I, or existence that alone persists in all the three states, is real. The other three are not real, and so it is not possible to say they have such and such a degree of reality. We may roughly put it like this: existence or consciousness is the only reality. Consciousness plus waking we call waking. Consciousness plus sleep we call sleep. Consciousness plus dream we call dream. Consciousness is the screen on which all the pictures come and go. The screen is real, the pictures are mere shadows on it. Because by long habit, we have been regarding these three states as real, we call the state of mere awareness or consciousness the fourth. There is, however, no fourth state, but only one state. There is no difference between dream and the waking state, except that the dream is short and the waking long. Both are the results of the mind. Because the waking state is long, we imagine that it is our real state. But as a matter of fact, our real state is Turiya, or the fourth state, which is always is as it is, and knows nothing of three states of knows nothing of the three states of waking, dreams, or sleep. Because we call these three avastas states, we call the fourth states also Turiya avasta. But it is not an avasta, but the real and nature of the self. When this is realized, we know it is not a turiya or fourth state, for a fourth state is only relative, but turiyatita, the transcendent state. But why should these three states come and go on the real state or the screen of the self? Who puts this question? Does the self say these states come and go? It is the seer who says these come and go. The seer and the seen together constitute the mind. See if there is such a thing as the mind. Then the mind merges in the self, and there is neither the seer nor the seen. So the real answer to your question is they neither come nor go. The self alone remains as it ever is. The three states owe their existence to non-inquiry, and the inquiry puts an end to them. However, much one may explain, the fact will not become clear till one attains self-realization and wonders how one was blind to the self-evident and only existence so long. What is the difference between the mind and the self? There is no difference. The mind turned inwards is the self. Turned outwards it becomes the ego and all the world. Wow. That is awesome. Awesome, you said. What is the difference between the mind and the self? There is no difference. The mind turned inwards is the self. Turned outwards, it becomes ego and all the world. Cotton made into various clothes we call by various names. Gold made into various ornaments we call by various names. But all the clothes are cotton and all the ornaments gold. The one is real, the many are mere names and forms. But the mind does not exist apart from the self. That is, it has no independent existence. The self exists without the mind, never the mind without the self. There is no difference. The mind... Oh, yeah. Lower, 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 Daniel. Brahman is said to be Sat Chit Ananda. What does that mean? Yes, that is so. That which is only Sat. That is called Brahman. The how to,
Lustra.
the the luster of Sat is Chit and its nature is Ananda. These are not different from Sat. All the three together are known as Sat, Chit, Ananda. As the self is existence, Sat, and consciousness, Chit, or Chit. What is the reason for describing it as different from the existent and the non-existent, the sentient and the insentient? Although the self is real, as it comprises everything, it does not give room for questions involving duality about its real and or unreality, about its reality or unreality. Therefore, it is said to be different from the real and the unreal. Similarly, even though it is consciousness, since there is nothing for it to know or to make itself known to, it is said to be different from the sentient and the insentient. Sat Chit Ananda is said to indicate that the Supreme is not Asat, different from being, not Achit, different from consciousness, and not an Ananda, different from happiness. Because we are in the phenomenal world, we speak of the Self as Sat Chit Ananda, because these are all coming and merging together in this state or non-state. In what sense is happiness or bliss, Ananda, our real nature? Perfect bliss is Brahman. Perfect peace is perfect peace is of the self. That alone exists and is consciousness. That which is called happiness is only the nature of self. Self is not other than perfect happiness. That which is called happiness alone exists. Knowing that fact and abiding in the state of self, enjoy bliss eternally. If a man thinks that his happiness is due to external causes and his possessions, it is reasonable to conclude that his happiness must increase with the increase of possessions and diminish in proportion to their diminution. Therefore, if he is devoid of possessions, his happiness should be nil. What is the real experience of man? Does it conform to this view? In deep sleep, man is devoid of possessions, including his own body. Instead of being unhappy, he is quite happy. Everyone desires to sleep soundly. The conclusion is that happiness is inherent in man and is not due to external causes. One must realize the self in order to open the store of unalloyed happiness. Sri Bhagavan speaks of the heart as the seat of consciousness and as identical with the self. What does the heart exactly signify? Call it by any name, God, self, the heart, or the seat of consciousness. It is all the same. The point to be grasped is this, that heart means the very core of one's being, the center without which there is nothing whatever. The heart is not physical, it is spiritual. Hridayam equals Hrit plus Ayam. It means this is the center. It is that form which thoughts arise, on which they subsist, and where they are resolved. The thoughts are the content of the mind, and they shape the universe. The heart is the center of all. That from which being come into existence is said to be Brahman in the Upanishads. That is the heart. Brahman is the heart. How to realize the heart? There is no one who even for a moment fails to experience the self. For no one admits that he ever stands apart from the self. He is the self. The self is the heart. The heart is the center from which everything springs. Because you see the world, the body, and so on. It is said that there is a center for these, which called the heart. When you are in the heart is known to be neither the center nor the circumference. There is nothing else apart from it. The consciousness, which is the real existence and which does not go out to know those things which are other than self, alone is the heart, since the truth of self is known only to that consciousness, which is devoid of activity. That consciousness which always remains attending of self, alone is the shining of clear knowledge. Wow. Honestly, when I read these words, it actually makes me self-centered and feeling grounded. I cannot qualify it as an awesome book or a very, very. It has no knowledge in it because it actually just reminds you of the source that you are. But actually, there is nothing to be reminded of. The mind wants to understand, of course. So the very nice thing about it that usually when we read a book, we think about it. This book, you feel it inside you. You feel the connectedness, you feel the oneness if you really stop the logical mind and just feel the book. Just become the book at the time, and it gives you anything your mind wanted actually, and yeah, just it really makes being much easier to access and to shut down the mind, because the being is always there, but we tend to use our mind too much, right? So this book shuts down the mind. Even if I read it, my mind shuts down and it comes from the heart. So yeah, thank you for this chapter, and we will continue on the next stream in the next